Man Christie, Mato Yote, boy Ojuba. Shout outs to you, Mr. Kwate, Miniano. Abba. Baba Shabia no bomber than Johnny Femo, Kiamoko no Kiamoko, waba. Waba. That's right. Abba. Johnny Femo, Kiamoko no Kiamoko, Hami Continoni Yang Konu. What trale bam mene Jufok Beke, what catch a cry. Trale bam. Shout outs to you, Yakubu Ayirigo. Numo Yakubu Ofaneto Yote. Papa. Papa. That's right. Anukwale TV, Ebatashi. Bromade no Johnny Femo, no Hami Continue no Yang Konu. Shout outs to you, man for Steve Vaneto Yote. Nakai Bongo Bashabia no Kemomi Aloya chat session on. Shout outs to you, Maggie Bebo Woyo Juba. Papa. Oba fita wa no bomade no awo gontin like emotion we onu jalinke WhatsApp platforms I don't know yo can me jame bomade eba menyeli ake jena so woba chen so Johnny Femo ni me aba fita wa yo koni wa ya wo here kemo mi yellow ya chat session onu Nima Flabu. Shout outs to you, Man Lucy, you find it all your turn. Nakai, bon kemomi hello, a chat session eh. Ko kemi hello no ka ko ami continue ni ya anwe ko. Aje. Nothing in my hands I bring, nothing in my hands I take. Biamininda kwe wayomoko ni wakala ya official town egbo mama ni ato na kanjibo ni achole. Nothing in my hands I bring, nothing in my hands I take. Shout outs to you, Mamily. Mamily, you find it all your turn. Ami continue ni yangwe ko boma de njani femu. Kiamoko no kiamoko onu. Yani what try jeme ko. No mwade san benoko mi. Boko yue blofo nege human being resembles nothing. A human being resembles nothing. Human being resembles nothing. Papa. Bon, they know Johnny Famon. So far, may 7 pair like you show you like your show and may 11 square, may 7 pair like you. Nitraga may 4 may like you fake here. But they no like you call like you show it. Love emoji saying we're born. Go and come here when you know I'm your. For it is appointed unto man balling like a scripture Ecclesiastes say. Shout outs to you, Maoti Toyota. Ami continue ni yangwe ko love emoji say mi papo fai ko nya ko no nye no ami onu e wa ni femo wa ade enche. No, e wapelio e lele gbo mari san be no ko mi mini no e wapelio woni ye mobo agegbe ma de san Shout outs to you, Pokwase Jama Manche. Ni amujan ni jete o fani to yo jogba to yo ten. Mi yako yo jogba. O fine call ba fita wa here Jani Femo Kiyamoko no Kiyamoko onu Kiyamoko no Kiyamoko in the next minute wa ba je woni Femo shishi no eke what wale bam bang eke what wale bam bang Man Christie care forward ever, backwards never. Indeed. That's right. Chemeka jeme min danye feshi ake wasa wabakbe yebie ekon engona wa akeshike imbatabi inanye nye bafita yi ni wasusu Ghana he ke gam dangbe shikon fe nko ake Ghana gandangbe ye Ghana mi ke Ghana here gandangbe ba yi ni ke gandangbe here Ghana ba yi they are intertwined onyoji emokome yemi ni eye emu so kemba bi ene minda anye feshi ake nyonye kobi ni nye ba fita wo wonye meni yo Europe won kpanye fa nye keke awo achake time wole aga nye no hihye no gbete ne nye mo live beja nye wo nye teshi chata beja nye wo nye teshi dani nye ko nye keke awo fe maga oba nyele na kan fio kata April ni ina ye na mese mi ni le aga nye fe nye wo but nye keke awo benyele nye onye no hihye fe maga nye onye chake nye time so in le aga nye no hihye so sani makpa no chumo na eje na kan ko nsu e ball ma bombo de keke wo free time mini sani wo bagba wo ye bia ni oshina wuluko banina Ghana mamu fe ni wo yare ho ni wofo ni wati ame pi wo yewe ni bi pi wo ga wo susu ni bi aye akete balete ni ke koyo lele ne koyo lele bibio ni hey ni koyo lele bibio ni kege nyumo dumo mi nko nsu wo man ye nyelo ni di joma ama le de nche kula hapo koneke lele ne nyumo pe ni adumo mi ale ni shiku eje na kan kwen na kan gbile koneke no ko ne ngu afi omi ake bi ne shiku wo ye president konklu ni wo fe wo yare o nka bo fe mi nyele ntabi I was minfo kula apo bi amini minfo show yare o info bo wo fo eko ni akeni ma wo be ni bi ni abanye ni aka investigate no ni potene ani neke no ko ne ba identify black box na ka black box aka fangbe ni ani me ba wu ni ame ba kwe ni wona no ni poten because nle ake mi ka bo fin wole ake kedi ashia wa mambi e kometo one I'm a be expertise or duba ni me your expertise e di enche I'm a bet the necessary accoutrements ni ambanya me use. So I believe majority of Ghanaians think, look, this thing there, you need proper people from overseas. Ni ameba for investigation. Say lele, the government of Ghana here woni ni echuna kaino aga black box say akete China being manufacture na kind helicopter. So akete Yemen I use ameni be ni akefi. Mene presidency release report publicly ahani cheme komeni nyenye ni achuneke nuchu mone ameba fe presentation mani ma wabatra na ken presentation eke wagbasane bibio ko eke wogme noko pi be ni woba yue ne kesane ne ko ba yue no yue lo jo ba pe be no ba tewe kuma doleshi una boni yo but ole noko we really have a long way to go. These are some of the things say when you get shukuana. Anytime I'm a politician go ake shika Ghana shika sana tray to negbo. Because ke politicians I'm a kla more juba. Ya me chuon no ni sana me chuon. Maybe just maybe we'll buy better helicopters, not any from China. No. Ni will buy training will be near me call uniform ame war. I can about defend the man. I mean, what about training am ojuba? What about provide them with the necessary equipment? Now I mean need you. But this is the sort of country we have. Just the previous government anyway. When you come a military scandal over $5 million. So therefore, no pay economy. The past government over soldier institution wale aka ma me tie nka Akufo-Addo government $5 million. Maybe it's an bob na do matwe ni every one day you can call every day just about politics. One day out of the week, just that will be our political day. $5 million corruption. So that for you. They get $5 million. How many flight simulators Ni were Air Force personnel about training $5 million. How many flight simulators But here we are. Wakpa will be a fight. Na meba sumo ma. Ni ka meba aka me sumo ma. Wanye wa provider me ni bi po ni ameba use na me ke sumo ma ojugban. Ni ameba shwe amelashi in the line of duty. Mo klabe to your thing. O find a boy ojugba. So machamabu. Okay, there were a few things coming a pop out in screenshot na kind know. Okay, in no way trouble. Okay, call asumo no contributor. Okay, okay, boli. Waka wani femo e banagbe for mene J na omo. So me sunny. For some reason. So let's do this. Let's do this. Oba fail later. I don't know. Yeah. Nyani wabua twe bona presentation na afi o fine ami gonti min pabu fai wa ami gonti no ni ya anwe ko jani femu kiamoko no kiamoko ni wachano love emoji se konye ko no nyen wai 18 pe won kwe I know when you me your Europe ame wo mo was Jena she min pabu fai jani femu ni okiamoko no kiamoko. Let's go.
Now, Captain Porfojo is a seasoned aviation expert with nearly 5 decades of experience spanning piloting, airline management, and aircraft accident investigation. He began his career in 1975 with Ghana Airways, rising to become a captain, instructor, examiner, and test pilot on the McDonnell DC-10 aircraft. He later held key leadership roles, including chief pilot and deputy CEO technical, where he oversaw flight operations and engineering. Notably, he led the successful qualification of Ghana for the FAA Category 1 status in 1997. He also flew with Saudi Arabian Airlines as a B747 captain from 2006 to 2011. Since 2011, he has worked as an aviation consultant, and in 2020, he was invited to join the Ghana Aircraft Accident and Incident Investigation and Preventive Bureau as an investigative expert. He is a full member of the International Society of Air Safety Investigators, USA, and has been part of and led aircraft accident incident investigations over the period. He currently serves as the head of investigations at AIB Ghana. Drawing on his expertise, Captain Fojo has represented AIB Ghana in a couple of military aircraft accident investigations. He holds an MSc in airline management from City University, UK, and a broad range of specialized qualifications, including certification in personnel licensing, ICAO, Switzerland, strategic management, IATA, Switzerland, flight operations, IATA, Switzerland, ICAO safety certificate, Morocco, MSG3 engineering management, Florida, USA, certificate in aircraft accident investigations, BAGIE, Liberia, certificate in advanced aircraft accident investigations, AIB, UK.
So
certificate in accident investigations, Cranfield University, UK.
You can tell
FDR, CVR, readout, and flight data analysis certification.
All the qualifications,
ISA,
all the experiences. You can tell like
so you see that our expert presenter is suitably qualified for the role that he's about to perform. Let me also indicate that we are,
like I said,
honored to have in our midst the Chief of the Air Staff, Air Vice Marshal Eric.
Investing properly.
So at this stage, I wouldn't take any more of your time. I would invite Captain Fojo to take us through the findings of the investigations. Thank you very much.
I'm going to share more link. No Kiamoko. Whatever I just.
Dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you all. Before proceeding, I'd like to, on behalf of the investigation board, give our sincere condolences to our dearly departed heroes. It is said that an aircraft investigation is taking a mess and converting it into a message, which is what we ended up doing. It's my humble duty now to take you through the presentation, which reflects the report that was presented yesterday. On Wednesday, 6th August 2025, the Z9EH tail number Golf Hotel Foxtrot 631 helicopter, operating a scheduled flight from Accra to Obuasi, was involved in a crash at Dampier Forest Reserve of Anochi Chrome, Brofiejo, in the Adansi Ekruform district, Ashanti region. All 3 crew and 5 passengers on board died. The President of the Republic of Ghana, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, directed the Acting Minister of Defense to constitute an accident investigation board. The Ministry of Defense, on the 25th of August 2025, announced through a press release the establishment of the board mandated to inquire into the causes and circumstances leading to the Z9 Echo Hotel helicopter accident. This investigation has been conducted in accordance with the Ghana Air Force flying orders, the Ghana Air Force Air Staff Instructions, Annex 13 of the International Civil Aviation Organization's Convention on International Civil Aviation. Generally, investigations under these regulations are conducted to determine circumstances leading to the accident and prevention of future accidents and incidents. The final report, which was presented, came in a format which had four parts.
graph say
Part one, factual information. Part two, analysis of the factual information. Part three were the conclusions, which includes the findings, the causes, and all contributory factors. And part four, the safety recommendations. The composition of the board. This is now getting into the methodology of the investigation. The composition of the board had national security, Ghana Armed Forces personnel, personnel from the Aircraft Accident and Incident Investigation and Prevention Bureau, Ghana, National Intelligence Bureau, and we had some staff from the US Air Force also with us. For the factual information evidence collection, we immediately had, on the 26th of August, a briefing by the preliminary investigation team, PIT as it's called. Now, the preliminary investigation team were sent out on the same day of the accident by the Air Force. Their task was to go to the accident site, secure the site, try to protect and make sure that all perishable evidence was secure. Now, when we speak of perishable evidence, we mean things like information, things like memories, because people forget after a short time. They also have the duty of making sure that in as much as possible, they can capture and do a wreckage diagram of all the parts and so on that were around the crash site, because all these help in deducing what actually caused the accident. So we had a briefing by the PIT team, and they handed over the PIT report. The flight recorder, made up of the flight data recorder and the cockpit voice recorder, which is typically called the black box, and some personal effects of the passengers. The team then started, having gotten this information, decided to proceed to the accident site to get first-hand knowledge of the accident site and to be able to interview witnesses and so on. We also went through a process of looking at all the maintenance records of the aircraft. We looked at the flight logs of the aircraft, we looked at the flight logs of the crew, we checked on the crew's qualification, we checked on documentation, just to be sure that everything was proper. The flight data and cockpit voice recorder were then transported to the AVIC Flight Decoding Center in Xi'an, China, from the 12th September to 22nd September 2025. Now, AVIC is the Aviation Industry Corporation of China. The aircraft is a Chinese aircraft. They were the manufacturers. They had the software and the hardware capable of decoding and giving us the data from the flight data recorder. So we had to go to them. We also decided, as is normal with investigations, to look at the human factors and operational information. We looked at the medical and psychological records of the flight crew. Interviews were conducted with pilots, engineers, superiors, to assess the crew's proficiency, training history, and operational culture. We also actually interviewed their families and so on. We left no stone unturned. We also interpreted the weather. We looked at the weather on the day. And we looked at the META, which is the actual weather at the aerodromes. We looked at the TAFs, which are the terminal aerodrome forecasts, eyewitness observations, and then we also took data from the Ghana Meteorological Agency. Next, the investigation team decided to look at the whole organizational and systemic processes under which the aircraft was operated. So we examined the Ghana Air Force policies, their flying orders, and their operational oversight mechanisms. We looked at crew authorizations. We looked at the air tasking order procedures. Because, for instance, for the particular day, the task order that had been given was to fly the Minister of Defense and his party from Accra to Obuasi and back. We looked at Air Force oversight, its safety culture, and the adequacy of risk management systems. Having gotten all this factual information, we then moved to analysis and reconstruction. Using data from the flight data recorder and cockpit voice recorder, radar tracks, and eyewitness accounts, the flight path was reconstructed. We also looked at various analysis of several data and other similar accidents. And then we pieced together the sequence of events leading to the accident. From that, we came up with our findings and causes, and then finally, the safety recommendations. So, for the scope of flight, we looked at the history of the flight, we looked at the weather, we looked at the environment, we looked at the machine, that's the helicopter, we looked at human factors, the crew flying the plane. Then we looked at the organizational and systemic factors, sequence of events, and then we came to what we believed strongly was the cause of the accident. For the history of flight, we went before the flight to see what the pilots had been doing. And it's on record that their last 3 flights before the subject flight, the same crew had flown all the 3 flights before on the same helicopter. On the 2nd of August, they came from their base in Takoradi to Accra. It was a Medivac flight, 1 hour long. On the 3rd of August, the following day, they did a flight from Accra to Cape Coast, back to Accra. 1 hour, 20 minutes. It was also a medical evacuation flight, Medivac. On the 4th, they were tasked to go fly Accra to Salman, back to Accra. That was a 2 hour 30 flight. That was a bullion flight, a cargo flight. On the 5th of August, they rested. Now, it helps to say here that in Ghana Air Force, there are flying limitations for the crew. You have 10 hours per week maximum, 62 hours maximum per month. Before flight, it's also accepted that if you've had a rest of 8 hours, you've had enough rest, and you can go to work. They had in excess of 24 hours rest. On Wednesday, 6th August, the crew for the Z9 aircraft, call sign ISCAP, Hotel Romeo, India, planned to execute the task order for the Ministry of Defense. The flight was scheduled to depart at 8 a.m. with an estimated en route time of 50 minutes. The captain delayed the flight due to adverse weather in Accra, Kumasi, and Obuasi. The weather improved about an hour later. So, takeoff ended up at 12 minutes, 14 seconds after 9 a.m. Throughout the flight, the altitude changed to avoid low clouds. Now let me explain why this was so. The flight started out being conducted under visual flight rules. Now, if you're flying under visual flight rules, what it means is you're using visual references to navigate. It's a normal way of flying. So they were using visual cues to navigate to go to Obuasi. And so they had to stay away from cloud in contact with the ground. So as the cloud base changed, they changed their altitude. Where they needed to avoid, they would avoid. I'd like you to take a look at these two pictures. Now, first of all, these pictures were taken in the environs of where the accident took place. Take note, it wasn't taken on the day of the accident, but it's just representative. The picture on the left shows the morning weather and shows you the visibility, gives you some idea of the visibility on the day. The picture on the right is taken from the same place, looking at the same area, and you can clearly see that you can make out the ridges in the terrain over there. And it's noteworthy that on the day of the flight, this visibility you're seeing that I'm telling you, you can't even see that as you can see. On the day, the visibility was much worse. From eyewitness accounts, the visibility was down to close to 200 meters at some point. This also shows a picture of actual weather from a passenger who was on board the aircraft, just to give you an idea. The weather in the southern Ghana was poor on the day, which delayed departure for about an hour. In Accra, conditions were misty, with visibility of about 5 to 7 kilometers and very low clouds starting at only 700 to 1,100 feet above the ground. While the situation improved slightly later in the morning, the early hours were dominated by haze and overcast skies. In Kumasi, the weather was worse, with drizzle reducing visibility to around 4 kilometers and heavy low clouds sitting just 600 to 900 feet above the ground. Only Accra and Kumasi Aerodrome were available. Only Accra and Kumasi Aerodrome weather were available. There was no formal information on the weather available to the pilots along the flight route. Witnesses reported poor visibility due to fog and rain at Brofuyedru and its environs. Environmental commissions in the Dampier Forest Reserve and its rugged terrain or hills mountains created conditions such that over such rugged terrain, you can have turbulence, downdraft, and other phenomena. Now, to look at this is what we're talking about. This is a known aviation phenomenon when you have such rugged territory. And what ends up happening is turbulent wind currents occur usually around ridgelines, mountains, and hills, and can generate sink rates in excess of 1,000 feet a minute in moderate wind conditions. These sink conditions can often exist well above the barrier that induces the eddies. We assessed the aircraft to see if it was fit for purpose. The helicopter entered the Ghana Air Force Service in May 2015, having been manufactured in 2012. And it reached its 10-year service threshold on 18th May 2025. Aircrafts have periodic checks to make sure that they're fit for service. The Air Force has 25-hour checks, 50-hour checks, and 100-hour checks. The 10-year check for the helicopter is what was mandated for this helicopter. Now, as is usual, an operator, in this case Ghana Air Force, requested from the manufacturer an extension. And it's normal, happens in civil flying, happens with any type of flying. The manufacturer gave a 90-day extension to 18th August 2025. And basically, the helicopter met all the basic safety requirements. That notwithstanding, it sort of met a 100-hour check. So the Air Force also did a 100-hour check on the helicopter before the flight. The aircraft on the day was declared serviceable and duly signed off by both the engineers and the captain. The flight data report indicates that the helicopter was in good working condition. The helicopter, however, did not have some avionic safety enhancements. As I said before, the aircraft was serviceable and airworthy. The additional safety equipment that the helicopter did not have were things like the helicopter terrain awareness system or the enhanced ground proximity warning system, as you may choose, advanced navigation with terrain mapping, an automatic flight control system. And I would say that these safety equipment would have enhanced situational awareness. For instance, it didn't have an autopilot. That's advanced, the automatic flight control system, so that the crew had to manually fly the plane. So it sort of increases workload. Typically, you want to have a plane that has an autopilot. All the civil planes use autopilots, and the workload on the pilots is very low. It gives you the chance to do things and to think easily, and so on and so forth. Despite all this, the aircraft was in a good condition to fly and met all safety requirements. The investigation has recommended strongly for aircraft with these additional safety enhancements to be acquired immediately for the Air Force. To rule out any potential human causes, we also examined the qualifications, experience, and competence of the crew. The captain has a postgraduate certificate in safety and accident investigation from Cranfield University, UK, in 2024. The captain was a qualified FAA, that's the Federal Aviation Administration, commercial and instrument-rated pilot from Bristol Academy, Florida, USA, in April 2015, 10 years ago. Within the Ghana Air Force, he was recategorized in March 2025 as a Cat C pilot. That is, a pilot qualified to be a captain on the helicopter, the Z9 helicopter. And he had a green instrument rating. In the Air Force, they have gradings for pilots, categories for pilots from A to D. D being, depends on what you call high and low, D being for the initial, sort of, and then you go all the way to A. It's interesting to note that for quite a while, and as at now in the Air Force, the highest category is Cat C. So the pilot was totally competent to be flying this plane. The co-pilot was also a qualified FAA commercial and instrument rated pilot from Bristol Academy, Florida, and he qualified in April 2023. In December 2024, he was recategorized within the Ghana Air Force as a Category D pilot on helicopter type with a white instrument rating. To further rule out any potential human causes, we examined the medical and psychological records of the crew. A review of the medical and personal records revealed no known medical or psychological conditions in the captain, co-pilot, or technician at the time of flight. All three were described by witnesses as calm, prepared, and professional during the pre-flight activities. Fatigue or medication was not considered to have materially affected their performance on the day of flight. Now to the sequence of events. The flight departed Accra under visual flight rules in marginal weather. The flight to Brofuyedro was uneventful. Brofuyedro is approximately 90 miles from Accra, about 10 miles from Obuasi. As the flight approached Obuasi, visibility deteriorated rapidly due to mist and low clouds. At 9:56, the crew entered IMC, which is Instrument Meteorological Conditions. To the layman, it is they flew into clouds because they no longer could stay away from the clouds, so they flew into clouds and transitioned to IFR. Now, IFR is Instrument Flight Rules. So what it means is they now transitioned from navigating using visual cues to now navigation solely on the aircraft's instruments.
Hello, Mama.
The crew then initiated a climb to cross terrain that they were aware of. They initiated the climb to cross the terrain. Seconds before impact, the crew stated that they could see the high ground below, so they had gone over it. Suddenly thereafter, the helicopter that was flying up without any change in its power or in the pitch, which we use to go up and down, suddenly lost height and impacted a ridgeline at about 1,370 feet above sea level. And this was about 6.5 miles from the destination, and this happened at 9:58. Is what the planned track had been. The purple line is what the aircraft actually flew. And that took place because it was avoiding clouds and so on and ended up where it was. Now to our findings. The helicopter was airworthy, but it lacked additional safety enhancements. For instance, the terrain awareness warning system. Now, the terrain awareness warning system, for instance, is predictive. So what it does is it tells you, warns you, it gives you a better picture of the situation and puts the pilots in puts them in a position to make better judgments, to be able to see everything and be able to foretell if there are any things that could possibly create a problem. But they lack the additional safety enhancements required for the weather phenomenon over that terrain. There was adverse weather, there was limited visibility, there was rising rugged terrain, with this terrain induced complicating factors, and there were no ground-based navigational route aids en route. The investigation would like to say that from everything they gathered, the emergency response was very timely. The fact that the first responders managed to get to the site in about 2 hours was remarkable, because the terrain has very steep slopes. It was raining, it was slippery. So it wasn't the easiest thing to do. When we went to the site, it was also raining and it was very slippery. And we struggled using sticks and everything to try to get up there. So looking at everything, we would say very confidently that the emergency response was very timely. The investigation determined that the accident was caused by the sudden loss of altitude and lift due to downdraft. This loss of altitude without change in power or pitch altitude is consistent with downdraft associated with changing environmental conditions over high terrain. In our findings also, we said there's limited national navigational capacity, a capability for en route and remote area weather services. We also looked at training and realized that the Air Force doesn't have much simulator training. We looked at flight monitoring and realized that there was no flight data monitoring also taking place. For flight following and tracking of aircrafts, we realized that it was also not there. There's no secondary surveillance radar, no automatic dependent surveillance broadcasts, or any other real-time tracking of aircraft. Our safety recommendations. There is a definite need.
Right, so we've been at
to modernize the fleet of the Ghana Air Force. We have recommended that the Air Force acquire modern aircraft with terrain avoidance warning systems and modern navigation systems. That the aircraft should have cockpit voice recorders and flight data recorders, which are the audiovisual capable types. That the Air Force should invest in simulators for recurrent training. That they contract certified aviation weather provider or providers, and that Ghana as a nation should try to have en route navigational aids, especially in remote areas. The Air Force should seriously consider establishing flight data monitoring and en route tracking systems. But finally, we believe that they need to acquire ground support equipment, modernize what they have. In conclusion, the helicopter accident was an unfortunate and sudden weather-related accident. Implementing the safety recommendations will prevent the reoccurrence of future accidents. At this time, before I take any questions, I just want to give a few acknowledgements. I'd like to acknowledge the efforts and the support that the team had from the National Security Secretariat, led by the National Security Coordinator. It made what was a really difficult job for us much easier to do and encouraged us to do and persevere to come up with these results. I'd like to say thank you also to the US team that joined us for a period of the investigation, the Chinese, for their warm welcome of us when we went to China for the decoding and all the assistance that they gave us. They were very professional, and they worked with us and got us everything that we needed to be able to fully understand what happened. I'd also like to acknowledge the lead investigator, who in truth is not here today, Air Commodore Akron. He is on national duty outside, but he was a lead investigator and he worked really hard. I'd also like to acknowledge my mother organization, which is the Aircraft Accident and Incident Investigation Bureau, and its commissioner, Mr. John Wombati, for all the support he gave to us and the full availability of the AIB architecture to help us. And to the team that did this investigation, for their open-mindedness, their objectivity, their logic, their diligence and perseverance, and their dedication and commitment for over 2 months, working close to 7 days every day, sometimes from morning 9 till 9 at night, because we knew the country was hungry to know what had happened. And finally, thank God for blessing us and giving us the fortitude, the mindset, and for guiding us to come up with this report, which we hope will bring closure to the families of our departed heroes and to the nation. Thank you.
Right. So there you have it. Like I said, this was the presentation that I saw this very morning. In the graphics, and I think graphics action, but it will make a lot of sense because they UAP. So what take a few minutes and we'll go through the slides, say bona presentation and if we'll go through the PowerPoint any accompany presentation kuni work nibi kumena. But generally, I can't obodona UFA to it. Look, Oshina neighbor. But could this have been avoided? Keji, were your systems come in place? Keji, were your better helicopters? The answer clearly, listening to him, is yes. This could have been avoided. Keji, what fair would be ojogba as a nation? This could have certainly been avoided. So the state really needs to take a lot of the blame. Can't nobody, and I hope I can President Mahama about transform what Air Force said before Ebashi. You understand what I'm saying? Shout out to you, Uncle Charles. Well, look, okay, $5 million. Some of these things are needed technology wise. Imagine more what that $5 million need anake soja fue mina chole nokonaya he na michon adu unaccounted for $5 million. Look at some of the things ni neke nokone ba nye he. It's all gone. Mabi eshwa me amen me ame walai. This is the sort of nation we are running. This is the sort of nation we are running. I fonshike ame. I put me in places where any car ma tag me. I'm a drain. No need drama no ya me icho minjake. They want to line their pockets. I mean, Nibia Komenecho, these are pretty. Look, I don't know anything about aviation, but me boleto ni mimbiake. So, I mean, why don't we have this as a nation? Why? Why? Even our own military do not have some of these things? Really? It's unbelievable. Now, so once again, no ni uba ni ona ko fane ami continue o jani femo ni ona keshi like I said in the PowerPoint say ba chon ba ke ene afelo jugbaji many me fe investigations so kwamo. So where man from the National Security Board, where man from the Ghana Armed Forces, the USA Air Force staff. So my name is Air Force. Niger America, there were people from the Air Force here, African Accident and Incident Investigation and Prevention Bureau. So Bolenjo Banake definitely J me keke ni I'm fair together ni I'm a fair neke investigations ni come on name be no me you know I mean I'm about the best of advice ni I'm bachombo don't know feel juba we know your man name we know ke ibale aviation son here I make a sure I want NTSB National Transportation Safety Board say board ni your BNA almost touch all the thing. Accidents, air crashes, crashes, all over the world. NTSB is the best. I mean, they will go. You will find a member there being part of the investigation all over the world. So I'm sure I can Air Force, USA Air Force, military to military. They are one of the best too. So I'm sure I can. So you can tell like J Ghana be so pet ni afenike investigation ni about cat corners. You understand what I'm saying? So board ni fe kui ni fe kome ni afenike investigations ne no jino ni onaye screen no. So you have the National Security, you have the Ghana Armed Forces, you have a staff from the US Air Force, and then you have the Aircraft Accident and Incident Investigation and Prevention Bureau. Ni amefe na kaino ne. Once again, methodology ni onane. Now, factual information / evidence collection. So, briefed by the preliminary investigative team on 26 August 2025. So, Kenya ba akaye bile no ni accident ba wana me kome ni boli amete gonjiano ni amenye no ni ayalo men kaflache wakai wekuma reo ni wanake akari me kome ye tacholete koko mina chole pepe miye. You understand what I'm saying? So nake many they were part of the initial investigation neke group na set up ame hame information ni what no ni wane ni bi ni wa collecting handing over of PIT report. So to a preliminary investigation team no you know na PIT report flight recorder, you know what a flight recorder is. A recorder pretty much all the flight information. Black box. That's what it is. And then CVR mini actually cockpit voice recorder. So cockpit voice recorder no juno ni boli cockpit conversation the pilot say have yeah play there me no a recorder of so I can me fair army where they visited the accident site from the 28th to the 29th August. So ni pit bieke information army on the 26th I'm on 28th ke 29th I'm at the accident site ni akwani bi ke amedienche ingbe. Now mini jini bi komeni ameba amekwano na amekefe amekwe the technical examination in terms of technicalities flight and inoko efite ye and inoko tuni ojugba ye anoko eje noko eya ojugba. They looked at that weather conditions and everything. The data collection flight data recorder a little black box the cockpit voice recorder so that's what you see. You see the maintenance records, the flight records, and crew qualification documents were reviewed. No technical examination, the data collection no you know na the other side of the slide there, the black box, the cockpit voice recorder, ni amefefe akadno ona akadno amekete China onuni wacha any investigation because helicopter China biano, so they have the technology to actually open the black box ni amekwe noni yomi na menya me decode noni meni yomi so no you noni ononi efita some of the things ni afeye agbenenwe human factors and operational information. Like I said, onaga medical and psychological records of the flight crew were examined. Onuni bi pi we ayeni bi pi ake ni mokoke ngafeni. I mean, a whole bunch of nonsense was thrown out there. So amekwe the medical and psychological records of the crew and yamete moko no kongbe na lo science and no kongbe na lo. They did that. I'm interview fellow pilots, engineers, supervisors, can he be fair? Ameke crew chuoni amekwe no me fair over ne journey for mo yami no ami konti. Amekwe no me fe ona na fe shwake abono fe no to a consider no fe no then I may come to the very conclusion ni ameba meteorological information. So of course call no meteorological pe baba we weather sunny so abakwe na kan time minute weather conditions and clearly onake it play a huge factor. As a matter of fact, that was the main factor ke obowache to the weather conditions played a huge role in what transpired once again, but this could have been avoided. So I'm a interview a Ghana Meteorological Agency. I'm a data. I'm a eyewitnesses. Many me yo shikmono na kan jeme na kan bile bi aminini e ba mini jono ni amena. Te weda afete, te weda yo ten. No ko ya tatu emi enumbo ne ununcho. I'm a bibi na kan sanjie fe ni I'm a finding say ni I'm a ba. I got an organizational and systemic review. So I'm a Ghana Air Force. So I'm a runner. I'm a nibi in terms of I'm a flying. I'm a helicopter fan. Can it be fair? What are the systems organizationally, systematically? Mini gini be ni I'm a feel in terms of the way now I'm a runner. I'm a fleet. You understand what I'm saying? So you get the board examine Ghana Air Force policies, flying orders and operational oversight mechanisms, crew authorization, air tasking order, procedures, Air Force oversight, safety culture, and the adequacy of risk management systems. So everything ni Ghana Air Force a call. I'm a flights are here. I'm a cruise. I'm a no fair no here. Akwana can ni be a fair ni I'm a fish wake totomoko eje eku no fair no ye ojubang. So analysis and reconstruction using data from the FDR, CVR, radar tracks, and witness accounts. The flight pathway was reconstructed. So information I mean black box me, cockpit voice recorder me, radar tracks. Me na I'm a interview I'm a yeshikono. The flight pathway and I'm a follow. I'm a reconstruct meaning I can I'm a quack okay. Ni player frank be a shebie ne shebie fenike ne fenike ne keba ni ne keba ne fenike. So because of enemy feni amena I'm a reconstruct the whole thing again from the time ni play ne fan ki at that time ni gbeshie I'm a reconstruct the sequence of events leading to the accidents. Number 8 findings and causes number 9 recommendations. So now what about I'm real quick. So now this is the scope of noni amefe. Once again, sequence of events. Noni teno, a cause of accident, meaning accident teba, organizational and systematic factors. One and no human factors. And it bomwadesa no go femo yemi lo ne anne ke no ko ne balo machine and flight na me use alo equipment na me use alo helicopter denche and no fe no jalo and they contribute something to it low whether what Nakashi Lele, of course, whether Nakanbile Numone in the morning and whatsoever. It was very cloudy. History of the flight and the flight in a mini G Bejiano to Efan down low maybe the last time ne fa last time ne fa me ni me fa ani a jomo ne sani amena na kan a jomo dani ameba fan flight ko le flight den che ani ni bi na sana kwekwe before na ba go ahead aka fe ko we ani akwekwe na kan ni bi yellow ona so nya wo cha no. So now a previous flight, so I'm in chono kwake before na can be August 2nd, mind you, accident about August 6th. So August 2nd, then the same flight, get the same crew. I'm from Takrade to Accra. I'm a 1 hour. It was a medical evacuation. Mukuna medical emergencies and not transport led to Accra. You know, so I get nakeba. 3rd August, the next day, when Accra to Cape Coast, 1 hour 20 minutes. Another medical evacuation, medvac, the same thing. Nakaya no womuku ni akaleba. Akaleba Gan for medical treatment. Okay, 4th August, Accra, Salman, Accra, no cargo, no Ilenoni Ayatoyami. So, onake proud to on the 6th, the accident, the same helicopter, the same crew. I may perform these 3 flights, ni no fair no ye Ojogbang. Yeah, what channel? Accident flight. So on Wednesday, 6th August 2025, the crew for Z9 EHGHF 631 Kasigan IHR1 plan to execute the task order for Ministry of Defense. So na kan bile ake hame ake ame ni ame ba wo defense minister ke wonchi ni ame kama ya na kan galam say ni afe. The flight was scheduled to depart at 8 a.m. with an estimated en route time of 50 minutes. So once again, I'm a fair me yake. Allo, a schedule flight 10 square flight. No funny kicking me. Me na ECAPS. 8 a.m. in the morning. I'm a plan I can get flight there. If I take 50 minutes, the captain delayed takeoff due to adverse weather in Accra, Kumasi, and Obuasi. So be at on one any near J. Ona I blame weather Sunday. Wow. So watch more be. So na kan bile lady den che ni amekwe boni weather she come yo captain a delay flight na Sunday fan 8 a delay le because na ke dabi between Gan ke Kumasi ke Obuasi weather ehi ojogba call your me ehi ojogba so a delay flight 8 na sana I'm fan so right there one any weather conditions a problem boy start mo. And you know what? Maybe once again, let's just it's only what you I mean we come areo so we should be able maybe I have a care about the military. Clearly, let me put in a question form. They can't infer to me. I'm being Kojo were these crew members under pressure they decided to make the flight even though ni clearly weather ni nyeleboni soja for asande yo obey before complain obey soja for obey before complain. You understand what I'm saying? So for Lenny, a delay flight for 50 minutes because of weather conditions. Need the same weather conditions happens to be a major factor in the cause of this accident. Nimbiake ani you understand what I'm saying? Ani because of Bonini yo wall the by force otherwise they are dealing with the defense minister. So even though like where they're in war, they have to fly. I hope you are getting my point. Because clearly the weather I know a delay the same weather I know they contribute to nekenokone. So and I'm a force in I'm a fan. Once again, because they are dealing with the defense minister. And it can't make no I mean, could something else have happened? Over on Aboninjon. So mind you, okay, flight was scheduled niswe about 8 a.m. She found if 9:12 a.m. Throughout the flight, the altitude fluctuated and changed to avoid low clouds. So I mean, throughout the flight, say because of the way you call your I mean maintaining a stable altitude. I think when few abashpon few, I think when few abashpon few, I think when few abashpon few, because it was not changing to avoid low clouds everywhere. So I think when few abashpon few, so you can tell from the very get go. Anyways, like I said, it's one about we kuma areoshi. Now, this was not the exact day. Any nation in Genk but terrain ni accident by you can tell very mountainous. Ni oliake mountainous terrain is always going to be cloudy. Now, so any example now making show back 9 me in the morning and you know you're left there. 09 hours, 09 o'clock hours. Oh, na kashi come on. Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, a little bit. Oh, now get very cloudy. You can tell. So time and I'm fine. Again, come on. Now, this was later on in the afternoon. Oh, now get on the other side of the mountain. And this was 1200 hours. Bona. So lebi me amenye look at the weather condition. Yeah, jame. And the kobo watch any if a presentation to a chono wake ke okwe weather on that particular day it was worse than this. Yeah, Abraham mimba onu yeah nkebang mishiabo bona. So ke okwe weather come on your left side. Ene jegbile no na shy. Couple of days later no kobo money watch watch any if a presentation to a kebuake time now me fan weather was even worse than only one. So come on 9 o'clock in the morning ni okwe na kanjiboni weather yo ye ne kekbene any kersa nye jeme ni na kan time kebaka was even worse that day any nearby. Then you should imagine what they were flying into. Once again, military Sunday, obey before complain. Could they have said no? You understand what I'm saying? Because they delayed the flight. The captain delayed the flight clearly because the weather conditions was not good. No, it was worse than only what clearly 9 in the morning. Come on, look at how cloudy it was. Be 1200 hours. So you just look at the weather conditions they were flying into. Could they have said no? Now, we be a come ni ame walang me ame le shaneke photo ne photo ne send and clearly you can tell. Look at Bolencha come out that way. This whole place is cloudy. Bona. So this picture was taken on board the helicopter before it crashed. Picture no na screen no. I shot your flight no before it crashed. So clearly, look at what they were flying into. Once again, I make no because it's the military. I know. I but I make no this could have been avoided because clearly what any presentation I equipment ni advanced. They are very advanced equipments. Ni fly into such conditions. And clearly the helicopter I may have a better capability. A better capability. So we as a nation failed these people. We failed them. Ghana as a country played a role. Why ni when Yusu captors from China, ni clearly I'm a sheko no ni I mean I use the modern day military captors now use clearly I'm a sheko. The weather in southern Ghana was poor, which delayed departure for about an hour. 1 hour. In Accra, conditions were misty with visibility of about 5 to 7 kilometers and very low clouds, starting at only 700 to 1100 feet above ground. While the situation improved slightly later in the morning, the early hours were dominated by haze and overcast skies. Once again, could they have said no? Could they? In Kumasi, the weather was worse. In Kumasi, the weather was worse, with drizzle reducing visibility to about 4 kilometers. So in Accra, it was about 7 kilometers. She called Kumasi put in chair worse. It reduced all the way to 4 kilometers. And heavy low clouds sitting just 600 to 900. Meanwhile, in Accra, it was what? Accra was what? 700 to 1100 feet above ground. She now Michelle Kumasi 600 to 900. So clearly, the weather conditions was very, very worse. Very, very worse. By the time I'm Michelle Kumasi. Only Accra and Kumasi aerodrome weather were available. Once again, between Accra and Kumasi, inlet other airports come ni Ubana ni Abanya use a weather systems, but clearly Accra and Kumasi aerodrome weather system penny available. Let's go on. There was no information on the weather along the flight route available to the pilot. Once again, so because no because no it's a better capability. The modern ones have the capability. She know na from China, a provider with the weather information along I'm a route near I'm a travel or. Witnesses reported poor visibility due to fog and rain at Brofoyedru and its environs. It was very foggy, and of course, it was raining. The kind of rapid changes in environmental conditions over the terrain can result in turbulence, downdrafts, and other phenomena. So clearly, weather and check it rapidly na kan obanu shishi noni akani ye. Downdrafts. Turbulent wind currents usually occurring around ridge lines, mountains, and hills, generating sink rates in excess of 1,000 feet per minute in moderate wind conditions. So I'm a trouble. Ndoni downdraft and of course that very day, because of the weather conditions, there was a downdraft. And if it you can tell I may have a graft be so onye be pull you down. It's gonna pull you down. Now I deal with the weather. I've been a machine. Now we assess the aircraft to see if it was fit for purpose. The helicopter entered Ghana Armed Forces Service in May 2015. So 2015, ni Ghana Air Force, Ghana Air Force be in the channel. Le flight talent a manufacturer in 2012. Ni reached a 10-year service threshold May 18th, 2025. So a few months before, Nika Obo Captain and Tobanake usually a kaji ishena can be manufacturer. So I know request for a 3-month ni nekoni afe nakai naturally a service ni omnane you me aka me records chono kwake I may apply for that 90-day extension they were granted bona. So the aircraft received a 90-day extension ni eba expire 18th August. So clearly nakai no expire accident on the 6th of August bona, but it was due for manufacturer service ni I may apply for a 90-day extension, which is allowed. It is like a papale chono, it is common. So this was not out of the ordinary. The aircraft on the day of the flight was cleared, serviceable, and duly signed off by the captain. So once again, what captain any if an aircraft equip flight ni declare flight take it is serviceable ni abanye ni afe mini ayuso na inu ofego yi ofego nu. The flight data recorder report indicates that the helicopter was in good working condition. Once again, flight data recorder, allow black box say it was in good condition. Helicopter at the time now was in good condition. The helicopter, however, lacked some avionic safety enhancements, and this is where the issue is. Bona boninchon, nibi ni laki ke obowache to iche ekomegbe ni kaji na kan ni bi ye flight no shukwe na kan ni bi ye flight no shukwe e ba anye wa wache mene ni shukwe no ni ba ekole ibang. You understand what I'm saying? So even though it was in good working condition, it lacked some safety enhancements, and this is where Ghana efeli wache mene. This is where Ghana efeli wache mene. Aircraft was serviceable and airworthy, lacked key safety equipment. So come on, terrain awareness and warning system. So Egobei, a better terrain awareness, and I think if you don't even know what it is, what this is, this is pretty much self-explanatory. You understand what I'm saying? You don't have to be in the aviation world to understand. This is terrain awareness and warning system. Like I said, you don't have to be in the aviation industry to know what this would do. And this did not have it. So you are flying into the terrain. No go best system. Okay, no, yeah, it's a little mountainous. Nothing. Go or driving to no go 1,500 feet in front of you, can maintain the same level of Ashinoko, young if you Bashikon, Chon Bekube, Yon in only the Junobe. This did not have it. It didn't have it. Advanced navigation with terrain mapping. No echo bet. Once again, you don't have to go advanced navigation with terrain mapping. So before I know about far, no more map terrain your near no more. They don't have a system. They feel like echo be coptano, echo beno. These automatic flight control systems. Once again, any fly autopilot. Modern Coptex say, I believe no that you again they can they are able to do all the because on your and I think he said that a fly autopilot no comba a allowable book captain can you crew and drink because plane lunch about driving you get drunk at mini gino situation she go bay so ba sanibody manually ebolenche or pilot ni whereas ni kaji autopilot in ye if I feel agbene ojo okay ke fe mini gino ni ma fe ego bay. These safety equipment could have enhanced situational awareness. Ego bay. So once again, we failed our people. Shout out to you, John. Numo Miniana, John Mitchell, Eba Trashi. You understand what I'm saying? We clearly failed our people. The captain, now, be a human factor, say, like I said, ni wacheme amewalagma me ayweni BP. A lot of the conspiracies was all over. The captain, to rule out any potential human causes, we examine the qualifications, experience, and competence of the crew. So no, I check postgraduate certificate in safety and accident investigation from Cranfield University, UK in 2024. So captain there, and your postgraduate certificate in safety and accident investigation. So once again, this tells you, okay, this guy is qualified. And the captain was a qualified FAA, BNA, Federal Aviation Authority, commercial and instrument rated pilot from Bristol Academy, Florida, in April 2015. So he's actually licensed or certified to fly commercially as well. You understand? So clearly, that experience ni ibanye a flight na kind of and a certification say this is fairly recent. Accident investigation 2024. FAA certified commercial and instrument rated pilot April 2025. No, so clearly a certification say fairly recent. You understand what I'm saying? Captain with the Ghana Air Force, he was recategorized in March 2025 as a Category C pilot. Ni ke obo wache to onani a rate take Ghana Air Force say. Oh, 2015. Oh, okay, sorry. 2015. Oh, Nagashi Ghana Air Force say I'm a rating say started from D going up to A. D meaning you have the basic qualification. You understand what I'm saying? Ni captain a C. So a better according to Ghana Air Force is a standard there. A better is above what is required. You understand what I'm saying? So Paddy man explain like A being the highest, B like C D. So le D captain a certified as C. You understand? So it's not mokoni e yeshishikula ni ele no ne ebafi. Bona. All right. So let's go on. Which March 2025 ne no ni achun nakaino. Yeah, John, I agree. It was a flying coffin. I agree, John. The co-pilot, the co-pilot was also a qualified FAA commercial and instrument rated pilot from Bristol Academy, Florida, USA in April 2023. Le 2023 ni ina nakai certification from the FAA. In December 2024, he was recategorized within Ghana Air Force as a Category D pilot on a helicopter type with a wide instrument rating. So at least he has the basic qualification. That is the co-pilot a D rating. She piloted and a C rating. A categorized nakai. So clearly these are people they are qualified. I'm a fly nekenukwe. But what na flying coffin anyways. To rule out any potential human causes, we examine the medical and psychological records of the crew. A review of medical and personal records revealed no known medical or psychological conditions in the captain, co-pilot, or technician at the time of the flight. So once again, I'm a review, I'm a medical records, I'm a review, I'm a psychological records, and I'm a lakolo, and I'm a temo kun suffer from nokolo, ne bandi kolele dienche, ne echune. And clearly, I'm a medical records, I'm a psychological personnel records, records they have any issues whatsoever ni amebanye amefi nakaino medical records okay psychological we chefing all three were described by witnesses as calm, prepared, and professional during pre-flight activities. So clearly fatigue or medication was not considered to have materially affect on the day of the flight. So fatigue and medication was not considered to have materially affected. You understand? Yeah, so I think it's affected. So once again, I'm a temoko a call chofankoni abagake o chofani a call no honey nakainoba. I'm a temoko call chofankoni a honey nakainoba. The flight departed Accra under VFR in marginal weather. The flight to Brofoyedru was uneventful, approximately 90 nautical miles out of 100 nautical miles. Nichwake be neke flight majority of the flight no feno te no jogba bona at 09:56 hours the crew entered IMC clouds and transition into IFR obanake NMF watch abbreviations then no na ninche be watch a chono. Seconds before impact, the crew stated they could see high ground below. So in a before now me crash I'm a system say no akashi I'm in no way but hey anyways now any watch black me ake on a blue line ni ona noji the original line ne sani flight ateki bona she ke okwe purple ji boni ametele so banage it's not that different I don't know ile boni I read you and I don't want to give you a wrong information she blue no ji any esani amenye ke obo wache to ye blue no she amenye purple no and I'm sure anything no can because of the weather. So like I said, any read mo insumoni makebo no go need is wrong. But ijomon kemi ake you know na menye blue no exactly bona it's because of the weather. So you call me bashi bibio because weather conditions say it be all that good. You understand what I'm saying? Once again, don't take my word for it. Flash money we be into the toilet. But this is what my layman's German kemiake. Papa like blue no. No ni asana amenye. But amenye purple no. Bona. So banake just say bashishi bibio. And I think because of, like I said, the weather conditions, don't run with it. I'm not an expert. In le no go in geography at school. No ni your screen no. In my ready. She mean bononi papa le you to and I'm thinking okay because of bad weather. Oh, you understand what I'm saying? We were Sunday call ame bashifiu ni amenye ni ame fe ni ne what's the next one? The helicopter was airworthy but lacked additional safety enhancements. One we need watch for flying safer in the weather phenomena over the terrain. Once again, flying coffin to Mobini watch John Mitchell. Environment, adverse weather, limited visibility, rising terrain, and no ground-based navigational aid and route. Emergency response was timely. Actually, share many me ashejeme kenklele ameshejeme time na sana ameshejeme no kukula be once again clearly even though copter ba anyani efa ni bi ni ba wa yenike conditions me na kan no ekobe. So cause of accident. Again, the investigation determined that the accident was caused by the sudden loss of altitude and lift due to downdraft. So when I get downdraft, noji the other one ning chombo and if to gonkono. So all of a sudden, no, I guess because of the weather conditions, it was wind. It just started pulling the flight down. You understand what I'm saying? They just started losing altitude. I mean, was just pulling it down. Downdraft. Anima kwake manna. You know, when chombo later, no, naboni yobana was shy could go no bana near finick all of a sudden, no, it do me wa neighbor. So that's when I'm trying to work no junoni it caused like an accident. This loss of altitude without change in power or pitch and attitude is consistent with downdraft associated with changing environmental conditions over high terrain. You understand? Yeah. So all of a sudden, wherever terrain they were flying at, no, they just born. They boil like blamo once again due to the weather, environmental conditions. Maya back to nakai no ni ke chombo no na boni doni e chon e yo. Organizational and systemic factors. They get limited national navigational capability for en route and remote areas weather services. Of course, commonly what chon Kumasi ke Accra. Airport say pe GA ni I mean this things need no call weather between Accra and Kumasi other ones ni oje me fe onyo I mean, onye in between. Ne oba akwafe. Obuasi umpo be airport. Je ni traga obuasi airport. I'm a be anything. Ne ba deal with the weather. Ona body nchon. Ne ba anya said nothing. Enhanced training. No simulator training. Ghana Air Force. I'm a bet simulator machines. Ni aranya kami na ke training. Shout out to you, ni. Thunder and lightning. Boy, Ojuba. I'm a beko. This is supposed to be there. Nika moko tashi ni a fly podi enche. Ibanya abote simulator mi. Ngalenche be fake only practice various conditions. I'm a best simulators. This is not right. You can't send your people to war without the proper academics. That's just crazy. Flight monitoring. No flight data monitoring. I'm a beko. So flight again, benye. I monitor there is nothing whatsoever. You should no monitor flight there. None whatsoever. Ke fan no egbena. No go kla besh pon e anya monitor le fi opo na ba kwe. Enye bi ne yash. Flight following. No secondary surveillance radar. Automatic dependent surveillance broadcast. Real-time tracking, etc. So clearly, enemy fe wabeko. And our military is supposed to be the finest. You understand what I'm saying? It's supposed to be the finest. And these are things the Ghana soldier for should not be lacking. They should not be lacking. They shouldn't. They shouldn't. I mean, this is crazy. This is clear negligence on the part of the state. Come on, me. I sue government. I sue am fee. Air Force, I sue am fee. Come on, me. Families come me. You understand? Johnny Fimo, Ovani, no ami gonti, no ni yangweko. Safety recommendations. Modernize the fleet of the Ghana Air Force. Come on, okay. This was a blanket statement. Modernize the fleet of the Ghana Air Force. Come on, Ghana be Kenya ma yuelo juba. Tumononi Jan ke ni chwage boyin ade kai son helicopter die ni nyoje me boyin ade kai son. Noni John John Mitchell ngaba gamie anye. Boyin ade kai son yo me. Helicopter die ni yo me fe boyin ade kai son. Many me fe investigation am ganye wu afa nye chila afa shwa ni nye here son. Amen Kenya. Nye here so boyin ade kai son yo boyin ade kai. Come on. Acquire modern aircraft with TAWS, terrain awareness systems, and modern navigation systems. Again, so yeah, modern ones. Boy, ya de kay chila fanshwa. Noni enye cockpit visual recorder, allo voice recorder, flight data recorder with audiovisual capable type. So I come and put in videos, audio visuals, videos, one video, invest in flight simulators for recurrent training. Akanye simulators, contract certified aviation weather provider. Na me. Nigga na be navigation aids and route. So call ya equal there are no navigation aids. Eko kla be. No, and route navigational aids, flight data monitoring. What be ko whole Ghana Air Force, the best flight data monitoring. So careful. You see how it took long, Bona. You see how it took long. Before ni abashe Ghana, Bona. You see? Once again, en route tracking systems, ground support equipment. I'm a conclusion. I'm again. The Z9EH accident was an unfortunate, sudden weather-related accident. Like I said, they blamed it all on the weather. Implementing the safety recommendations will prevent recurrence of accidents. Let me see if any of my guys are available. Ni ameba call basumoni o contributed text mommy hi my trouble koni oko oyue mo abani ball jena ni wofi wo she amakwake we be a go if ready low I don't know, let me just see Ajamo
Yeah, Lampado.
amanu oyi
Oh, Lampado. Mapani fai.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no one meet you.
Ishe. Nagbabe. Abache. Yes. I mean, give me department to your moon. She, I'm sure I get with a little bit of experience. Obo, near to any one way.
The day, Eradon, Kegbeno, when da we go, change my guy, Makave Ghana fan, to make a remember your friend in the Omani.
Abraham, text him on high. Katra, text him on high. Get me in trouble. Oh no. So text him on me high. My trouble. Abacha over there.
Yeah, and calling people bet in my view. Ya ketu we je na kanini ne oteni yo ni ilaga me pika che suja menala it's a blanket thing wo fe ke no chumo ni wo chumo ke wo expertise
Yeah.
and quali for maybe the past 30 years incha ko tutuntu ji money akela ni chumo wo de ni le ya majano ni ya inquire on ya require ya hill koyo milele tia Ghana in the thing. So I dare to say she's probably responsible for those purchases. She nearly and quali getting ma he whatever I share makake ben nui ni nejina me hill. First of all, what Fiji wo cheme ke wo nyeme ni amecho amese ne ke beno amewo ye ejolemi ni agashi ntula mwame ukumi kam nyeme kam bi kam umefe ami bi aneni ame beje ndon she me info ke se makage eye amlalu eno no ni mene ni wote me bi wo blo ye shika aboni government ne ba ne ho ne ni MPP government shika aboni hin na du na mejuke shika ya aboni na me hin shika hin na me pata
Yeah.
no hani eye dole wa denche ya kana gashika jine fe ne kani bi ne nsa kwa kafe ona to ni wo ba improve the level of the equipment aircraft in Joe change Humvees in Joe no funny asura for ke chuni ni ba na ni chumo ke ya hin na kan shika jin kwa ka asura ke eko achun neme ewo before there's a consequence to every decision. This is a sacrifice I guess they were willing to live with. Baby ke won we o chama sajin nje tafla chama chemepe she politicians man here yellow fe ka we ni aje aka mini he won mene May 8 so me lose our lives. Ni anukwale mi J may 8 penny affect. Ya kana ka may 8 ta flache ame ngame. Ame B me mami me. Ame che me ame nyeme. Me nyani ma kume short way abo. Ni mene na ma ate shi sa mi ame na me don. Ngene ekume ta flache ekole ame nyeme ka me hume depend on ya me no. Aka ba wa nke school fees pay mo. Ama wa me ke niyeli. Ama wa me ke hospital ke ni bi ya. Muna me bedon e me 8 mo ego ne egbo mu ne. She did me 8 penny so for na ke lo se. She feje wo nupa e amani fie mo. Ju odotwa. Ame musumpo esha me. Ona e me ankwale je play he nuchumo nchumo. I cannot way too much on that end. She is clear as day because she can give the man invest into equipment, modern equipment, advanced equipment. When ekole nani wana one ni taflache skapu enye po na ke wo Ghana military me. Taflache amefa tatumo. I mean, a peacekeeping motion and peacekeeping. Most of the funding it doesn't come from Ghana. What is the budget? Annual budget? Ni Ghana can war a soldier. Mean Air Force in Jew, Army in Jew, Navy in Jew. You name it. Sky Nyampo, I make a war me. Yeah, ke wole no ni poteni ameke niska bona make war me. Ke no na me chun. Obedagbe won't depend on man konko man. Amake bonoko. Playing say anyone use Ghana armed forces me. First second hand
Clearly. Yep.
be careful on first second hand. Echo bet ni brand new ni. Fair ko ke man ko use it nta flat e ko la me flag show e wa me don alo bet ni e ke asa e ke what they want inspect e ke wo feel like she good enough for us e be wo ke baga. She flat armed services say they are well trained. No, they are well trained. She well trained with support equipment there. It's no good. It is no good. But fair money o for get o for military me onyo action. Allo ben again on a jam ba fi on abonation the fact that she equipment fin or their second hand there is an issue. Because what we don't deem our military as mekuna here. We don't deem actually they deserve the best of equipment.
Yeah.
The best they have great training. She caught the box, you need gloves, you need good gloves and my focus is how much is the government on a yearly basis putting into our armed forces to make sure they're actually prepared? Because these are the equipment we have to rely on.
Yep.
What 2G in Jew, what planes Jew, what Omicron's Jew, they are all support. Or get Jimmy, what queer Jimmy, one hope I can one day takwebali na war. Get a gaba no can buy. No bad be washing. The manpower, the actual equipment, bad be wash.
Yep.
Or some government appointment. Whatever.
No one you corruption, Sandy. Come on. Ninkapo, you me in $5 million. But look, This was just last month. This was reported. I don't know how many of you cited this news story. Now, pictures any or no, I'm not. Biane Monio left, ambassador to Canada. Biane, Joe deputy ambassador to Canada. Monio Medele, Legi Dominic Nitowo, former defense minister. If you're like a naval chief at the time. So, but this now. Ex-Ghana military officers exposed in 10.5 million rusted 53-year Soviet-era armored vehicles purchase. I'm a kind of few no kwe. So imagine what they now. I don't think this is saying actually. I'm a juchka. That's not what this is saying. But of course, the back stops with the leadership. A damaging report on the Ghana Armed Forces acquisition of Soviet-era armored personnel carriers (APCs). Specifically, the BTR-70 model has been submitted to President John Dramani Mahama, raising serious questions about corruption, negligence, and potential criminality at the highest levels of the military. The summary report sets the stage for either a military board of inquiry or a full-scale criminal investigation by either the Economic and Organized Crime Office, IOCO, the National Intelligence Bureau, or the Public or the Police Criminal Investigations Department. The military under the Akufo-Addo administration was reportedly engulfed in large-scale corruption marked by senseless procurement, inflated pricing, and acquisition of rusted, inferior, and discarded equipment. Some of the items, particularly the 20 BTR-70 APCs valued at 10.5 million, were described as unserviceable, having been bought from a military junkyard in the former Soviet Union. I'm a kind of this paragraph. Go both way. The military under the Akufo-Addo administration was reportedly engulfed in a large-scale corruption marked by senseless procurements, inflated pricing, and acquisition of rusted, inferior, and discarded equipments. Some of the items, particularly the 20 BTRs, 70 APCs, valued at 10.5 million US, were described as unserviceable, having been bought from a military junkyard in the former Soviet Union. This is what we are dealing with as a country. $10.5 million flushed down the toilet. Aileje. Yeah.
You are job. If I can go good. I want many but drama now. I'm going to try to. I thought I would continue to money when you are job. How about you? Oh, you are job. If you are get, you know, Jenoko, ni na papa ko agbo kamuso agbo dey you. You know, the you be our first live show gonna be right.
Yes.
Ni naga Chinese stallion. Share ko naga American. Ko bi ko tajalo jina ka cheche me. Me ba I get report ni report onye me ka oche me ni ya mobo na amagbesin when I met him about me. I got me report it. If you get on a Ghana no again go yi. Like you mo come we ke short mo ka flash again ko ke. Chi that drum na no fagbe. Ni otie ni wana beni man says come on as compared to the one in Ghana. The one Ghana flag in go die. So I wore Ghana Jesse Dali Dawi go Ghana flag in go put up Ghana flag. Because Again,
Abi.
Ora, ka okwe no ni akani yo ne, kene ni wonu ne. Bi twa ka play ne, afi ko kompe. Ade to go. Ko kompe afi. Ko kompe afi. Play ni nyemwe ni nyemwe. Be ni twa ka ni be captain ni yo play ni be lenche ka ingbe ni. E ka ingbe control ni.
Naga, yes. Yeah.
I don't think again.
Nagai. Nagai ni. Naga boy you ile.
The Ghana man, the Ghana, the GHANA, ma, the playing young way, the atato is atato, ni atato, ni atato yegojian, ni ke ota play in atato wo. The thickness of atato. Oh, atato come here. Na me na enwe. E banya ha akrafin atato. Ah, e banya take bo. Awes no cho atato come play.
Yeah.
Yenwe maniam. Ni boko yi ke yin lega ingbe be okropo ingbe se nani wo ege nyem ni ni wo awo kofi adeka ahale aka tami kofi adeka ni etami ni ge nyemwe bede ka nyemwe e adeka wo hale ke nyeji o de shi aka wo chana ke ba shi mi na koko pi afi bege bi ni ya tek e ko ba ho koko pi na am fi na penti ah Jite de go kan yi aga aye ko je Russia junk yard
Yeah.
na awo ka ba na ba penti right aba che wie e get second ene 2000 end aba che both baba ke ko no wie ni wie second hand yi at 2000 end no
Boni mo
na
boy guy. Sit.
no me ko 1 billion end ameka me genye asma 1 billion end
Problem is, Gigi ake si wonye wa for the no jino ko ni lesson ni wona from the last government ake si ake wonye wa for sika site sika.
Yeah. That's
No
the thing. Yeah.
No traga ade mambia
I mean ka o screen no mokome watch me ni amengma me wala mokome share ne ene le sha before ni egbehie bolenche kwamo atatu ne ni instrument kokla be na ba wa bondo na ka o ko ingbe nkwa to ba fe to ba na no ba no drive through atatu no na bolenche kwamo and clearly share ne before they when they can tell like look something is not right. Come on, screen it. They send it to a friend before the accident. Look, picture of en route weather from a passenger on board the helicopter to a friend before the accident. This is crazy. Oshin, I know.
No, Jay. No, can go back plane. I know helicopter ni ebanye ewa me yo nwe na me na amehie amena bini na jole is it precipitation ni bini ya no ni bini ni o yo no mountainous areas I mean a reaction ko ni I make a cloud say na within certain period of time like the altitude no yana kan den be call your New York is different from the coil one is going on. Whether I need check you at any time, ke onyela kan Godiano. All I've been using because Godie the other two. I mean, not Snamokuni, I mean, not da.
Yeah.
No call what I get Klaus said, but I'm a boy, Godiano. All I've been using. Any minute, ke the came agent systems near the play near here. If I dictate the came agent even a thing, all I've been using. And then as well, I take a copy. Now I walk with you, I think I plenty. I can't get I'm a tabby. Ora, agbadowo mi le abache eno awami Ghana efetumo ke moko wiero ko ni eyu ole no kera ke jina gampe ba ko boom ake ba ko boom no only ake si in the military
Yeah,
boom
I asked this question throughout the show. I was saying, okay, I mean, could they have said no? Because they delayed the flight for over an hour because of the weather conditions. And I mean, yes, they were to carry the defense minister, but I know how the military operates. I call with obey before complain. Obey before. But in this, clearly, something a delay flight there for over an hour.
No, it'll be a very interesting question because in the instance, ni le pilot le nuchumoni, he does the command. So the Secretary of Defense, in this case, Minister of Defense, he has the final say. The pilot there can refuse to fly. He can. Because he's in that moment there, he's in charge of the flight. JJ Defense Minister. Should not get a lot of times said because of a ship power I need to be war. Especially in a place like Ghana, he might just carry forward with the orders, right? Follow orders and follow directions. I'm saying it's interesting because I've been in a situation like that and I refuse to do it. Because I'm not doing no I can fear or I'm not doing it. She not Jim family you're not kind I call me I could do or whatever now I stand up to power. But you have to learn to do that. You put your life in danger. If you feel like boy you are in charge of that flight. Not the defense minister. Or Kebo feel like it's not safe. You just have to refuse to fly.
Right.
But we're talking about a different society. Ghana is different, a bit different from
Right. It's crazy. Yeah.
no Gini no what try me go na I'm trying
it's crazy. Yani amacha moko be people get work bina. Show bana gbeje na boli. Many men ship ame awo. Europe bi ala ame van me wo mo. Ghana bi efi awo wo yi. Oba nyele ne gan kata ibre. Hello ni, uva no jai pano.
No, need to
That's right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. 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 Right. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm.
Yo me no baha.
Mm-hmm.
What if you're saying I can school in Tashi? Nikem back college can kaba boy or one mark me absent.
Mm-hmm.
The guys are in any area, we are bomusu.
Right.
I came me back for assembly. Here, I just school and I came me back for she table.
Mm.
I did back me.
Mm.
If you example, we have school. Now, okay, what training or not training, what I intimidate you.
Mm-hmm.
Nika o nano kone sano wie polenche.
No, you. Mm-hmm.
Someone on your pilot can many two player he knew. When the defense minister, I got any defense minister alone. I it's an your friend warrior. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you know, I'm a quality, I'm a quality here. I'm a cabman who quality Darby 1 year warrior.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a risk, I'm a life.
Mm-hmm.
Name and Ghana ni oje. Ofedi na kesane yeboni. Enwo na le nche besa no ofedi ko owie pe baba chebo beko.
Hmm.
Wo da wo kayo. Ame no ko na yo. Uno bo pe tuno, bo pe
Mm-hmm.
tuno.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Sije gwele ni tuno ofi ori. Una no ko no
Mm-hmm.
na ke no, ene je la kani. Ona be ni
Mm-hmm.
yo. E wo chose mo bi komo wo pe bi ni wo yo e bi ene. Ai so aba chebo be na ji ha.
Yeah.
Niko bo ametu won na ke no ni beken you je ni kafla je e male lo is disrespectful.
Yeah.
She kebo no ni jam kwale.
Mm-hmm.
Na. E
Mm-hmm.
wo be she ni sani wo kwe. Ni ebe ne kwamo me she tra boni dudu.
Hmm.
Ni amasaji ni bi na ni anye aya batomo aya court tomo aya court tomo afebulu to ani bi ko me je me no ba heli shi. Sani
Mm-hmm.
e fe afele foolish case.
Yep.
Na ke be politician to no to sani.
Mm-hmm.
Check mene me ba no omomo ame wose ko ni bo bi ama me du e ba momo ko
Yeah.
be ahie ni emi na ba massage ni hu
Mm-hmm.
to no ba hele shin afele polish case
Yeah.
mo ko wo mi
Mm-hmm.
komo edubu ahin kometo shitana ache ahun ke jolly me fe ta
Mm-hmm.
komo leke money e ba fo ke inshallah mene komo di bi ya poni yo
Ofli jato mi je gbe ami.
free that way
Ami.
ami como chegar como níbi àbọ̀ níbi ìsọ̀tè àbọ̀
Mustafa
ní
Abi, that's
within
right.
8 years ní
Yep.
ilẹ̀ kòmẹ́tò ìkẹ́dínà
Mm-hmm.
another one kòmí lẹ́hún àkẹ́ èdè tamale lẹ́hún ìkẹ́yìnà
Mm, eh,
como
eh,
níbi àbọ̀
boss. I think I get mini boss to do. Not gonna gaggle well.
báfà
Buffer stock. Yeah.
báfà stock
Mm-hmm.
como lẹ́hún como chegar ìkẹ́ ìyẹ̀mí ayé mi àwọn ni wọ́n kẹ́tọ̀ màá kẹ́sì mẹ́lẹ́ náà àmẹ́ leave my name of the who kẹ́ bọ́ọ̀nù.
Mm-hmm.
Eno Ghana no ni baba be baba. Jake nyenye ke wa ke waterman say she was saying she got your taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Now he cement there, what pay your taxes. What here iron rod can be here. What your head when you do Ghana Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Jake no the taxes you or pay up money no go tell them bullet. E pay
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you what he Sunday what Sunday mean? Sunday what we Niye baba within a short time, ni politician ba nehi, ni boko ba tuni teacher for you ba tuni all a life.
Mm-hmm.
E ba retirement enye akabale.
Mm-hmm.
Teacher moko ya domo politics be no within 4 years no ene hikoto. Can you imagine can you be in my few money what fame and
Yep.
Mokoni mene be batano intimidate me lay tommy on in macanoni
I know.
one nini ne pe ba guide wo fe e da ke mokole
Mhm.
one e woni be ni ma we mi ma ni be ni na odise ni bu mo ba kwadro mo ya mi ni bi ni ba chake o wala hin mi
Mhm.
shi ne e ya ha le favor e wo be ipanga one
Mhm.
na me fi o ma le esana me kwe e ja
Mhm.
ke si e be me no
Yeah.
leke one way leke nkuko kitin ke leke farm na ka ba 1 minute ni bi ne machine mene
Mhm.
ni ka bi an ni na no kwa ka ke ake wodie ba o ke wodie ba ya hlabata bi am
Mhm.
ye be na ke fi oni
Yeah.
e ko fe ni ye be mi e follow
Mhm.
ano ko ba wo mi fe ba sha
Mhm.
hlabata bi am e wona ake o ka so gbo ba
Yeah.
e gbo we bi e fe
Mhm.
ni ke leke bi am mu fe ba ni nye ke wo ba Edwin ye ta flache Edwin ye mo fẹ́ mo bá ná mẹ́ni lè wọ́ mo fẹ́ mo bá ná ṣìkà fíofíà wò fún
Mhm.
mẹ́ni ìka yìí blo náà
Hmm.
fertilizers kẹ́ni bí náà ká bá hàn ní tẹ̀bọ̀ yọ ǹjẹ́ ìyá ń tẹ́ ní test
Hmm.
ìkyẹ́ àhùn àhàkọ̀ wọ fertilizer kòtò kòkò mi po
Hmm.
wọ́n kyẹ́ wọ̀ híọ̀ nǹkan wà ó bìlá yìí kọ́ láyé ẹ̀ fíofíò ẹ̀ dẹ́nẹ̀ ẹni tó kó kúrò àkẹ́wọ̀ sọ kàbá bá dọ̀bọ̀ sí náà bá yẹ dọ́kọ̀ bí
Mhm.
àbá yẹ dọ́kọ̀ bí kẹ̀kẹ́ káàpì àtàṣìyàn kẹ̀kẹ́ ehò
Mhm.
that's nǹkan wá ṣe
Ishe.
yẹ.
Oiradoni. Iwajo. Right. Mawa. Mawa le benyele. Mawa vio busy. Yes.
Member mfamo de umanye.
Majabla.
Ona gashi this is the first time in share ko program.
Mhm.
Ona
Mhm.
wonu pa chale.
Hmm.
Ken kama yele de kanine no bana sane no me wie no kokra.
Right.
Ma fita ne no pa wie.
Ishe.
In small my
That's
comment
right.
on this thing.
That's right. That's
Okay.
right. That's right. That's right. We clearly have a long way to go as a nation. And wofeji was solemoke when you no come this change in Ghana be the NDC party overwhelmingly at least say namo babai so far yeah come ya member mo de come nwele nyami dada no a when I born in here so anyways Jana so cheme can you tell me where no kuni ba fita ye le nyega ba mo Jana ga ni boli what check it wa over mhm
I hope I get noni musabuche radu sini ewie
mhm
jere bale ewie she akwa tuning
right
ni recommendations can be
mhm
le
mhm
aba ko na aga mama
right
odumisi
mhm
lo ko da afi ne ke ma je kuku na nkaka ya ni yo base je me na lo fe je me
mhm
ora bin news ke
yeah
ka ti ati Somalia a o play gwaje apenti
mhm
ati Burundi a o play gwaje apenti agaba aga yin
mhm
ora bin news
mhm
ko ko ke ma je play yin fa ke aka na a seli na ga fi gugake
unbelievable mhm
aga fi gugake akwara ja su kan bi olumisi gagba kan
mhm
bi aya ma fi wi baro kan bi
mawa ogbele oyo wa yue
Ona. Ghana le concert party. Na kama sana wa nine bi. Cambodia be get anapo Cambodia oba asana wo Cambodia no fia mo ino ba cho no cho akama ni the thing small platform ne ba na san small platform ne ba because nibi ni yon twi me ni to ni keke Ghana government small pro oni ne ba na san no bo an ma hold le in reserving committee
Is it? Ah, bache, ka wakpa mo.
Noni iyo yomoji kelele ni mama ke present government biane ameke noni happy ni me song wala engwe ame nele edo ame be ame finu kwa pa na meke kaya me kuna me gbele aka fe e follow opinion my way.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you because this happened under their watch. So definitely, it's an I met chakele for good. Anyways, chamega nyeme. You wala don ko ya Europe no tishi lebi ofane keke wo iboli wo ba nyele ne keson kata April na ba chake time bi amini wo ba anye wo mo and I can tell in our numbers so ne keke awo wo oba sa oba ba bi ko with another show wakama habo nye fenye ke wojuno ni wala don bye bye
Bye.